I believe the Second Amendment protects your right to own nuclear weapons. I believe an individual citizen in this country has a right to own a nuclear warhead.
But not a delivery device?
Oh, all of it, all of it.
Simple things you should have nukes and anthrax. Take a look.
The Second Amendment does not say the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed unless it can kill a certain amount of people, unless it is a nuclear weapon, unless it's a biological weapon. No, 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 it says arms, 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 arms. Nuclear arms, biological arms, it says arms. You got an issue with that, I can certainly understand why. You have to amend the Constitution.
His show, where he sat down with two sitting members of Congress, Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they got into the topics of where the lines are drawn regarding weapons ownership in the United States. So to the average person, this, of course, is a ludicrous idea, but this libertarian wet dream isn't exactly new. This has been proposed before by some politicians. And while we're nowhere near this becoming our reality, let's take a look at it. What would it actually look like if we were able to own nuclear and biological weapons? Think about it. Americans are insane. They're hyper-violent people, and in 2020, the last year, complete data has been compiled. Over 19,000 people were shot and killed. Every single day in America, over 300 people are shot. And the reasons are often extremely ludicrous. For example, in Colorado, someone shot their neighbor because they thought their neighbor was feeding squirrels too much. In Florida, someone shot someone at a bar during a fight over spilled beer. Also in Florida, someone shot their neighbor because their music was too loud. In Texas, a guy shot 3 people because they cut him in line at a taco truck. In Alabama, a guy shot someone because they said Texas A&M's football team was better than the Crimson Tide. And again in Florida, a guy shot his brother during a fight over a cheeseburger. That's, quintessentially America. You want these people to have nukes and anthrax. There's no tactical anthrax. There's no tactical nuke in a domestic dispute, in a neighborhood dispute, in a fight at a bar. At its core, there is a fundamental disregard for other people. This is so prevalent in right-wing ideology, and especially libertarian ideology, where they put themselves first, and everything they want to do, they should be able to do, regardless of its impact on you, me, our neighbors, our fellow people. It is a purely selfish ideology. It's also an extremely easy ideology to defend. And again, this is entirely unrealistic. This isn't going to happen. But if you will indulge just for 1 minute, think about this. Think about how this would look. A nuclear weapon, the cheapest nuclear weapon you can obtain, is $20 million. Who has $20 million lying around? Most Americans cannot afford a several $100 emergency. So, if this were to be real, if this were to be implemented, think about how this would look. Who's going to be able to buy a nuclear weapon? The 1%. And what's great about this is, right before he launches into this rant, his co-host points out how bad it would be if the 1% were the only ones who had control over the powerful weapons in this country. So Tim, that's who would control it. It would be the 1%. Joe Farmer in Nebraska is not going to be able to buy a nuclear weapon for self-defense. It's going to be corporations. It's going to be billionaires. It's going to be the 1%. That's what it would look like. You would have nuclear power corporations. This is ultimately just an extremely lazy read on the Second Amendment, which again, that's libertarian ideology for you. And just like restrictions placed on other amendments, there are limits on what people can do within the Second Amendment. And we see that play out in how the National Guard is equipped. The National Guard doesn't have missiles. The National Guard doesn't have tactical nukes. The National Guard certainly does not have anthrax. And this is such an incredible argument to make in the middle of a pandemic, because in Tim's libertarian utopia, the guy who gets cut in line in a taco truck is able to launch the next pandemic. And let's talk about how these would be stored for a second. Think about that. These are extremely complex and highly technical devices. Do you think just anybody should be able to have them? Apparently so. The storage and maintenance of nuclear weapons is no stranger to mishaps. For example, take a look at Titan II. This was a facility in Arkansas that held one of the most powerful nuclear devices of all time. The warhead in Titan II was more powerful than every single bomb used in World War II, including both atomic bombs, combined. The warhead on the Titan II was 9 megatons, which is 600 times more powerful than the bomb used on Hiroshima. And if Hiroshima hit New York City, it would wipe out most of lower Manhattan. And this is 600 times more powerful. So in 1980, there was a mishap at the facility where somebody was trying to do maintenance on Titan II, and a socket got loose while they were doing maintenance, fell down the silo, landed, ricocheted, punctured the side of the Titan II, which led to a massive explosion, and launched the warhead 300 feet away from the facility. Luckily, the warhead wasn't triggered to engage and actually detonate, otherwise it would have wiped out a large portion of Arkansas. And even that a facility like this, staffed by experts, could still be susceptible to mishaps that could result in nuclear disaster, underscores just how dangerous these are. But people are so desensitized and brainwashed by pro-war propaganda that they don't even understand the consequences of a nuclear strike. Between pro-military films and video games, people don't really get a real sense of war and the horrors of it, and certainly not the weaponry used in it. The idea that anybody in this country could or should have a nuke is a laughable one, but it's one that's treated with complete seriousness by 2 sitting members of Congress. And it's not just them. Other Republicans believe this too, or at least claim they do. The guy currently trying to primary House GOP conference chair Elise Stefanik, Lonnie Coons, also proposed this. And Texas Republican David Barton, who was the chair of Ted Cruz's presidential-run super PAC and former vice chair of the Republican Party in Texas, also thinks this. He said, quote, "If you've been trained with responsibility and morality, and the concept of when and where you use them, the Founding Fathers are trained extensively in the concept of defensive warfare. You don't start anything. Now, if someone else starts it, you can take it on, but you don't start it. I don't care if my neighbor has a nuclear weapon. As long as he has that defensive concept that he will never use that unless it's being used against him." I mean, this is preposterous. You could look at gun violence in this country and understand that even though people might have rights to own firearms, there is no unilateral acceptance of a defensive-only strategy. That's why people are shooting their neighbors over feeding the squirrels. And at the end of the day, I do think Tim realizes this is asinine. But he's ultimately just pandering to the lowest common denominator because it's easy. Libertarian ideology is the most easy one to defend because it's easier to say, no, I don't think there should be any laws, than it is to go out and articulate specifically what you think should govern society. And that's ultimately his game here. He doesn't actually care. He's an incredibly stupid individual, but the only people more stupid are the ones that listen to him. And as for the Titan II facility, it's now an Airbnb.